Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. This is a chapter on being tranquil. يجب اطمئنان في الركوع والسجود. To be mutma'in, to be tranquil or to pause in ruku and sajda. Imam Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id, who narrated from Nu'man bin Murra al-Ansari, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do you not see the drinker and the thief and the adulterer, and what Allah like what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what has been revealed regarding them? They said Allah and His Messenger know best. But He said that these are fawahish, these are like immoralities, and there is a punishment. But the worst type of theft is that which is theft from stealing from salat. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhu asked, Ya Rasulullah, like what is, they asked him, they said, how does one steal from salat? He said they do not complete the ruku properly, and they don't complete the ruku, and they don't complete the sajda. Imam Shafi Rahimahullah said that if a person after ruku, like he doesn't straighten his back in ruku and his sujood, and doesn't pause in it, like in the ruku and sajda, settle in it, and when he's standing up from ruku and sitting up from sajda, then his salat is nullified. Imam Shafi'i is strict on that the person should pause in ruku, pause in sajda, sit up from, when he sits up between the sajdas and stands up from ruku, there should be a pause. Imam Hanifa Rahimahullah, according to Imam Karhi Rahimahullah, that he's as is narrated from the madhab, that tumanina is settling in the ruku and sajda is wajib, but sunnah when standing from ruku and sajda. So in the actual ruku and sajda, of course, because you have to read the tasbih, you have to pause in the ruku and sajda, but not when you sit up between it and between the two sajdas. Like you just have to go up and then down, but don't have to settle in it. But according to the well-known position of the Hanafis, that settling in it is not wajib. Again, like you mentioned sunnah before, it's not wajib, it's not necessary. And also pausing after the sajda and between the two sajdas. Imam Shafi Rahimahullah says that by comparing the person stealing from his salat shows that it's haram. Like by being deficient in it, these acts, that it shows that it's haram, meaning there's wajib, compulsory to make sure. But Imam Hanifa Rahimahullah said it's makruh, because the actual sajda is done, ruku is done, the pause in between, there's nothing to do there. There's no actual act. But Imam Shafi Rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad Hanbal, others, that their view is that you have to settle. When you get up from sajda, you have to pause in the act, then go to the next act. It being forbidden to read Quran in ruku, Imam Malik narrated from Nafi', who narrated from Ibrahim bin Abdullah bin Hunayn, who narrated from his father, that Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade from reading Quran in ruku. In short, and the madhab ulama karahat qira'at Quran fi ruku sujud, and according to the ulama, it is a view of the ulama that it is a makruh to read Quran in ruku and sajda. But tasbih and dua, tasbihat in ruku and sajda, and dua is sunnah according to majority of the scholars. So you can do, there's other du'as in hadith mentioned, so forth, and we can make other du'as now, ruku and sajda. More specifically in the nafil prayers, because in the fard prayers we should do the main tasbihat. It is mustahab, it's rewarded for the imam, that he says when he's, it's required or mustahab for the imam to say, when he lifts up his head to say, lifts his head from ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and for the follower to say, Rabbana lakal hamd. Imam Malik narrated from Sumay Mawla, the freed slave of Abu Bakr bin Abdul Rahman, that Abu Salih al-Samman narrated from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when the imam says Sami Allahu liman hamida, then you say, Faqulu Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. Different narrations say Rabbana lakal hamd, but he says Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd, because whoever matches their speech with the malaika, they'll be forgiven all their previous sins. Right? فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ وَافَقَ قَوْلَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ غُفِرَ لَمَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. So this is why, like for example in the Hanbali fiqh, رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ, another narration is رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ. He said, Rabbana walakal hamd only for the follower, because there's amr of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not the other du'as. If someone said the other du'as, it's fine, but because there's amr and Rasulullah only stopped here. What he ordered goes above what was done by other people, or like this takes priority over all other du'as. If you're doing nafil prayers, you can do the longer du'as. We know the hadith of someone who's reading a longer du'a, but Imam Ahmad considered this to be the better thing to do, and the variations have come of this narration. وَبِيَقُولِ Imam Hanifa, this is what Imam Hanifa rahimahullah says, that Imam, he should say only Sami Allahu Hamida, the follower should say Rabbana lakal hamd. Right? Imam Shafi said both of them should say both. Sami Allahu Hamd and Rabbana lakal hamd. Imam Ahmad says that the Imam says both, the follower says Rabbana wa lakal hamd only. So there's difference among the, so I mean I try to practice according to the Hanbali school. So when I stand up after ruku, you're saying Rabbana lakal hamd, I'm saying Rabbana lakal hamd. But for the Imam and the individual prayer, worshipper, he should say Rabbana wa lakal hamd mil as-samai mil al-ardi mil ma shi'ta min shay'in ba'd. There's one version of dua for the Imam and the individual prayer, but not for the follower, as per the Hanbali school. Leading qunut in Salat al-Fajr and others, interesting title. Imam Malik narrated from Nafi', who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he never used to, Abdullah bin Umar, he never used to make qunut in Salat, right? Meaning Fard Salat, I'm assuming. Imam Hanifa says that there is no, it's Fard Salat, there's no qunut based on this except for the witr, the witr. That's the only salat that there is qunut in. And he understood this riwayah as, why is Abdullah bin Umar so important? Because he's who he is, and he's the person known for Sahaba radiallahu anhu, that he was the most particular about following Rasulullah. He wouldn't do anything except in imitation of Rasulullah. So it's not just anybody's actions, like, oh, Abdullah bin Umar didn't do this, then no, because he's not just a Sahabi, but he's such a Sahabi. He's also Umar radiallahu anhu's son. But on top of that, he's the Sahabi, young Sahabi scholar who learned from all the senior Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and then they vouch for his istiqamah in sticking to what Rasulullah taught. Like Aisha radiallahu anha, like senior Sahabiyat and Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they certified him that despite all the fitna and trials and difficulties that came later on, all the problems that happened later on, battles happen and incidents happen, and other people came into Islam later because he lived a long time. People were affected by those things, political strife and rebellion and so forth. These things happened later on. But he said Abdullah bin Umar, like, he stuck to his guns, like he would not budge from anything that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's known for his profuse or extreme imitation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he's doing something, and you see this in the next riwayat as well. So Imam Hanifa rahmatullah says in Fard Salat there is no qunut, only in this we're talking about qunut, the qunut with not nazila. Nazila when a calamity happens, right? That's different, like war or earthquake or whatnot. And then he said that, but Imam Shafi rahmatullah said that you can do qunut in Fajr, right? Qunut in Fajr, and not in any of the fara'id, and not in witr except for the last half of Ramadan. So this is according to Imam Shafi rahmatullah. Only the last half of Ramadan, but daily in Fajr. Right? So only last half of Ramadan. He did do it. Only last half of Ramadan. Alright? So people say the Imam Hanifa doesn't join Salat. But Arafah and Muzdalifah, they join the Salat. Only there. They don't join Salat outside of that. So they do join it, they do practice it. But it's limited to one day a year, in Hajj, not anywhere else. They do Jama Suri, which is you pray Dhuhr if in emergency, pray Dhuhr is the latest time, Asr, but it's still Zuhr in Zuhr time and Asr in Asr time. They don't join the Salats outside of that, unless it's emergency or something like that. But then you actually miss the time of Salat. You can definitely not pray before the time. Imam Malik narrated from Nafi', the narrated from Abdullah bin Umar. This is about placing the hands in Sajda. That when Abdullah bin Umar used to do Sajda, he put his palms on the ground. And he said, Nafi' said, he was a freed slave of Abdullah bin Umar. Then I saw him in a very cold day, that he used to take his hands out, because they used to have very big sleeves. So he used to take his hands out because it was cold, but he'd take his hands out to touch the ground. min tahti burnas. Burnas is the cloak. He used to take out of, so winter clothes. He used to take his hand and make sure that he put his hands on the ground. Imam Malik narrated that, who narrated from Nafi', narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he used to place his forehead on the ground and put his palms on the ground, and then he used to raise his when he used to go up, then he used to raise them both, because the hands they're making sajda as well. فإن اليدين يسجدان كما يسجد الوجه. So the face is making sajda, but the hands are also making sajda. Shah Waliullah says, قلت ذهب عامة أهل العلم إلى أن الوضع الجبهة في السجود واجب. That majority, the general scholars, what they say is that putting the forehead on the ground is wajib, is necessary. As for putting the hands, the knees, and the feet, Imam Shafi said they're wajib in one of his views, and Imam Hanifa rahimahullah said that putting the hands is sunnah, but the general fuqaha say that exposing the hands is not kashful yadayn laysa biwajib. The exposing the hands is not wajib. But if you practice all of this, I mean, generally the way we sajda, their hands are exposed. It's very rare you see someone's hands are not exposed. But if you cover the face and the nose, there are ikhtilaf regarding the nose, so he hasn't mentioned the nose here. But if you, the nose, some imams said the nose is also wajib. It's part of the jabh. It's part of that. It's one treated as one part. Both have to be done. It's compulsory to do both. So, but as the hadith mentioned, the 7 limbs. So 2 feet, the 2 knees, the 2 hands, and the head, right? So, but if some include the nose in it, like they included both as one, then you should do both. Unless someone has some sickness or something and they can't do it on the nose. Sorry.
Is the exposure of the hands the same for sisters?
I think this is talking about exposure of the hands inside the clothes, like inside your garments. Because if they're praying with their gloves, for example, those are mutanaqibat, niqab, then they're not required to. That's part of. But I think it's talking about like move out of your clothing. Wallahu alam. Wallahu alam. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. On the parent, I'm just mentioning the answer, but I'm just thinking that that wouldn't be the case. But as for the Hanafi one, it says that exposing the hands is not a condition. Wallahu alam.
Why they put clothes while they pray?
Maybe they're outside. Maybe they wear it for hijab purposes.
We talk about they pray in the mosque.
Maybe they ride motorbikes. I don't know. Like you have to. But some ladies they wear with their abaya, niqab, and everything. They wear gloves as well. So yeah. So, but they don't want to take it off time. They might be just stopping on the way for 5 minutes to pray and then going in. Yeah.
For some reason.
I don't have any sisters ride motorbikes in their leathers, but the chapter on the sick person, if he's not able to do sajda, that he just indicates a sajda, like just Umma, that he makes ishara. Imam Malik narrated from Nafi', all the narrations are Abdullah bin Umar today. Nafi' narrated from Abdullah. This is the most strongest chain in hadith sciences. Like a golden chain. When Imam Malik narrates from Imam Nafi' narrates from Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu, that he used to say, if a sick person is unable to make sajda, إذا لم يستطيع المريض السجود أومى برأسه إمام ولم يرفع إلى جبهته شيئا. That he should make indicate ishara. He doesn't have to lift anything to his head. So if let's say he can sit, he's praying in a chair or lying down, right? He makes a sajda with his head. He doesn't have to hold a table and make sajda on. He just makes a ishara. وَلَمْ يَرْفَعْ إِلَى جَبْدِ شَيْءٍ. Abdullah bin Umar explain. And upon this is the people of knowledge. And this is the last little bit. The description of sajda. Yahya bin Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id, narrated from Muhammad bin Yahya Hibban, who narrated from his uncle Wasi bin Hibban, who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he used to say, it's maybe that you're praying on your legs, like on your backsides, or your and he said, I don't know. The person replied, I don't know. يعني الذي يسجد ولا يرتفع عن الأرض, like you're praying like you're like this, the way you're making the sajda is like you're putting your backside like down to the ground, right? If you pray sajda in such a way that the backside points up, isn't it? Right, sajda. So that you're praying in a way, so like these basic things have to be thought. Like we used to, because we whole life we've seen it, how a normal sajda looks like. But he was praying like the bottom was like, he goes, maybe you're praying like that, and he said la adri, because I don't know, wallahu alam. And وبه قال Shah Waliullah says وبه قال أهل العلم أن يرفع عجيزته ويعتمد على الأرض. So that a person should be firmly on the ground, and his back, ajizati, and his back, his posterior should be up, right? This is the riwayah I was reading somewhere. Ali radiallahu anhu, when he first prayed, when he was a child, he became Muslim. Him and Khadija and the first Muslims. So they're doing sajda, they were praying, and Ali radiallahu anhu was mentioning this year later on. I think it was Khalifa, and he said that his father was a foolish man, Abu Talib, that he looked at us. He didn't see the sajda. He see the back up. He said, I can't bring myself to do this. Like point my backside up into the air. You know, it's like the way some people, non-Muslim, how they see things. And the last section for tonight, to sit between the sajda, like between the two sajdas, like you sit for the end sitting, and not to sit on the tippy toes, right? On the toes, like both feet are pointed, sitting on that. You see sometimes people do that. Malik narrated from Sadaq ibn Yasar, and who narrated from Mughir ibn Hakam, that he saw Abdullah bin Umar. He was coming back from sajdatain, making two sajdas in salat, and he was on the tip of his ala suduri qadamayhi. He was on the heads of his feet. Like when he turned around, he finished salat. He mentioned that to him. He got innaha laysa sunnatu salati. وإنما أفعل هذا من أجل أن أشتكي. He was sick. He goes, this is not a sunnah of salat. He goes, like, what are you doing? Like, are you praying? Like your feet are. He goes, no, he had some injury or something. Because of that, he couldn't sit down properly. And upon this, majority of the jurists, Shah Waliullah says that it is makruh that a person puts his buttocks, puts the 2 feet, and then sits on top of that. But the sunnah is like the way we sit in tashahhud, with 1 foot and then 1 foot up and the other foot that we sit on it. Just the last section, sorry I did miss this. These are all similar narrations. How do you sit in sajda? How do you sit for salat at the end of salat, the tashahhud? Imam Malik narrated from Abdurrahman ibn Qasim, who narrated from Ubaydullah bin Abdullah bin Umar, that he was informed that he used to see Abdullah bin Umar, he used to sit cross-legged, right? So I did as well. I was young, I just copied as a young child. So when I saw him doing this, he was cross-legged, Abdullah bin Umar. So he's sitting cross-legged in salat and tahiyyat, tashahhud. So also I did the same thing as well. Abdullah bin Umar said to me, إِنَّمَا سُنَّ salat an tansab رِجِكَ الْيُمْنَى وَتُثْنِي رِجِكَ الْيُسْرَى. That he explained to him that you leave your right leg up and the left leg down. Then I said to him, فَإِنَّكَ تَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ. The child said, he was young, he said, you did this. And فَقَالْ إِنَّ رِجِلْ لَا تَحْمِلَانِي, because my legs can't carry me. Like I got older, he was unable to sit on my legs properly. Imam Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id, narrated from Qasim Muhammad, narrated from Qasim, that he saw in tashahhud that he used to put his foot up, right foot up, put his leg foot, the way we sit, put the leg left, we put it sideways and we sit on it. But he sat on his left side and did not sit on his feet. And he said that this was taught to me by Ubaydullah bin Abdullah ibn Umar. And he goes that his father used to do that. So Ubaydullah bin Abdullah bin Umar. Imam Malik narrated from Abdullah bin Dinar that he heard Abdullah bin Umar saying, وَصَلَّى إِلَى جَنْبِ رَجُلٍ فَلَمَّا جَلَسَ الرَّجُلُ. The man sat cross-legged next to him. Umar radiallahu anhu criticized him. And he said, فَإِنَّكَ تَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ. فَقَالَ Abdullah bin Umar إِنَّ اشْتَكِي, because I'm sick. So there are 2 ways to sit. There's iftirash, which is to sit generally what people sit, and there's tawarruk. You see, if you go to Malaysia, Indonesia, I don't know if you've seen it, tawarruk, which is to sit. Big boys like us can't do it, but it's like this, and the leg up like that, and the leg here like that. You can see here. Huh? It's tough for me, but it's called tawarruk. So this is can be done in Shafi'is. This is, if I remember, we mentioned here. قال يقعد في التشهد الأول مفترشا. So the normal way to sit, like what we call the normal way, this is done in the تشهد الأول, and in تشهد الآخر, the last one, the second tashahhud, that you sit like that, right? That you put the legs to the side. And the same thing is in the Hanbali salat. If I remember, in Hanbali salat is in the third rakat or fourth rakat salat, in the last rakat. So basically Zuhr, Asr and Maghrib. But sorry, Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha in the fourth salat, not in Fajr, because Fajr only has 2 rakats. So that's only and Nafil prayer is excluded. Imam Hanif Rahmatullah said no, in all tashahhud, all sitting, first one or second one, you sit do iftirash. And he mentioned here that Imam Malik said in both of them to sit mutawarrikan. So wallahu alam, I read it says it like that here. I think it's permissible. I'm not sure, I didn't see Maliki, somebody's Maliki that can explain how the tawarruk. They'll put in the comments probably. There's one guy that he always comments on Maliki things. If I say it wrong, then they give a correction, alhamdulillah. So tawarruk in the 2 rakats, I'm curious now. He mentions here that according to Imam Malik, tawarruk is in both tashahhud, in the first and the last one. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. Sorry.